I didn't need to sleep in that much today because yesterday was more just like of a pumping movement day, so I wasn't going crazy. I wasn't super stressed out at work yesterday. It was, again, just a steady day. Like, I was pretty even keeled, so I didn't. And I had a great Tai Chi session last night. Like, so all those factors went into it.
Welcome to the Optimum Human Podcast, the show that interviews the world's top experts in fitness, nutrition, mindset, and beyond. Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Optimum Human Podcast. My name is Brian McKay, he's Claude Petroulas, and we are the Optimum Human. Today's guest is Nick Horowski. Nick, how the hell are you today, man?
Doing great, guys. Excited to be on here.
Yeah, glad to have you on, man.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to talk to Nick. He's probably nicer than both of us put together, so I think.
Yeah, he's more Canadian than both of us.
Yeah. If you ask me, there's something going on over there. Trump, come on, get him out. But today's theme on the podcast, kind of to jump right into it, is Strongman, to put it plainly. Nick, do you want to kind of explain how you got into Strongman training?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So this started, I think, about 10, 11 years ago. I was training at Nazareth Barbell at the time. And if anybody knows, like, Mike Miller, this was the first dude to squat 1,200 pounds in the world. So
wow.
That's
a lot of weight.
People, yeah, like, even to put, there's nothing I can compare that to for most people. So it's heavy, right?
Yeah. It's like a car on your back.
Yeah, put a small car on your back.
Yeah. And he just did it with ease. And I mean, so I joined the gym. This was, I think, like summer after my freshman year in college. Oh, maybe so it was like 12 years ago, something like that. But he was doing strongman because he likes to take a break off from the powerlifting, at least as heavy, because if you try and squat 1,200 pounds all year long, it's probably not going to hold up too well, but he's doing really well still. But either way, like, that's where I really kind of just jumped into it. And I think maybe a year or two later, I did my first novice competition, won that. I was like, all right, I'm ready to, like, start taking on the open division. So I started getting, like, really into, like, right after I graduated college then. So I'm working, but I have plenty of time on my hands. Like, I was still living with my roommates, aka my parents there. And, like, for a year or so after I graduated, so I had plenty of time on my hands. Like, I would just go train hours on the weekend, like, after work. I really wasn't a big deal. And I went to, like, I just absolutely fell in love with the sport. Went to, like, Strongman Nationals that year. Learned what, like, really this is all about. I mean, local competitions, like, I could do first, second in a lot of those, like, in some of the open classes, but then you get out here and it's the whole country going to this thing. It's like, wow, this is pretty awesome. I'm absolutely hooked. So I did that for go ahead.
Yeah. What drew you to the sport itself? Like you said, you got hooked. So what was it? Was it the people? Do you just like that type of movement, or what was it that started the fire?
Yeah, it's probably a combination. I mean, first of all, it was like the people I was training with just at the gym, right? I mean, just love those guys, like, had a blast doing it. I mean, everybody's just pushing everybody else there. So just that environment, that camaraderie. And then, I mean, of course, there's just from the man end, it's like, all right, like, just want to lift more weight, like the testosterone, like, you could smell it in the air kind of thing, right? So that's always a lot of fun. But then I think for me, it's blending that strength with the athleticism, because you can't just do, like, powerlifting, I think, is cool, but it's just not my thing. Like, it's 3 lifts ultimately. Like, yeah, powerlifters do a ton more movements than that, like hundreds, right? Especially if you look, like, I really like Louis Simmons, like the whole West Side system, and they'll do lots and lots and lots of special exercises, which I think is important, but ultimately comes down to 3 lifts for them. But I want to be able to carry a weight. I want to be able to throw something. I want to be able to press it, to pull it, to just all these different planes. And I think that's something that just really intrigues me, is you have to just be strong as hell with every single thing you do.
And even, like, cardio aspects, people think strongman is kind of, you know, you do something once or twice, but it takes a lot of cardio, right? Like, truck pulls.
Yeah, I mean, you might have like a 60 or 90 minute, or I'm sorry, a 60 or 90 second event, and 60 or 90 seconds with, like you said, if you're doing a truck pull and takes you 60 seconds to pull that thing, like you are pulling a freaking car or a train or a plane, like planes, trains, and automobiles. I mean, you're trying to move that, and this is an absolute all-out effort, not just for a single rep, but for 60 seconds. Yeah, like strength comes into that, and that conditioning aspect is absolutely crucial as well.
Yeah, people think you need to run for 6 miles to get your heart rate up, and it's like lift something heavy for 1 minute, and you're guaranteed your heart rate is elevated.
That certainly is the case.
For sure, prowler pushes, even like a keg toss where you got to like toss like 3 kegs in a row. Like by the end, like you're panting a bit. I mean, it looks like, oh yeah, no worries, but there's some insane stuff. Do you
get to drink those after you toss them?
I'll tell you what, like beer, I cannot stand beer. I've never liked it. If we did maybe like, well, yeah, I guess, but I mean, maybe if we did like a cask of wine or something, like, or like I would go after that afterwards then.
Jack Daniels, something to really make sure that you're
drunken strongman. It's the new biggest fad.
God, imagine.
I mean, that might have been like, look back on it though. Is that where it originated? Like guys just getting hammered, like tossing all this stuff. Like, no, seriously, like, this
I
a plausible explanation,
absolutely.
Right?
I mean, alcohol, testosterone, stupid shit happens. I mean,
right.
It does.
There were plenty of times that I saw kegs at college parties and there was a volleyball net. Like the line, come on, everybody was lining up to see who could toss it from further and further away over that.
Amateur strongman. So you're talking about your competitions in the U.S. and you were going to a kind of higher level. Now, what changed between local and the kind of competitors who stood out at the bigger competitions? What differences were there?
I think, okay, so like I'm looking back on this now, so I mean hindsight is 2020. Some of it is like these dudes are just strong as hell. Like I've not, like, am I strong? Yeah. Am I still working at it? Yeah. But I mean, are some of them just that much more ahead of me? Yeah. I mean, that's part of it. Like I'm just not at that level yet. And like, I'm okay with that, like, because I still just want to continue to take this wherever I can take it. And I think the other part of it is I guess is mental game in 2 different ways. Mental game is part of just like being mentally strong, being like, well, shit, I can lift that weight. I'm going to beat this guy. And I don't know, maybe like, I think I'm definitely better at that than I was. But also the mental game of knowing how to train for it. Like I was still a baby at it there. And Mike wasn't really competing anymore. Like by the time I got to that point. So I was kind of leading the way, like in my gym on this. And when you're the strongest guy in your gym, like, and you're leading it, well, that's not necessarily a good thing either, because I'm not learning as much than I can only learn from myself. Like if I'm already stronger than these guys, well, it's tough. I mean, yes, I can still learn things, but not from necessarily a programming standpoint. So that's where I think it's just that smarter programming, and I've just continued to educate myself on that since.
It's kind of like that old saying, if you're the smartest guy in the room, time to find a new room.
Yeah, it's exactly the same concept, just applied differently.
Yeah. Now, what have been like some of the changes that you made from then until now as far as your programming? I mean, are you talking length of sessions, or what's kind of been some of the major differences?
Actually, that's awesome question, because that's saying just like the length of session. That's certainly one of them. Like we always did like strongman on either a Saturday or a Sunday, like primarily it was only strongman movements. And that would last anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, right? And you look at it like serum testosterone, if you're going 45 minutes plus, like you're not maintaining that level. So definitely, I don't train for more than an hour anymore for sure. But I think the other thing is, like I said, I've been really, really geeking out on a lot of the Louis Simmons and trying to learn the West Side principles as much as I can. Just rereading a lot of his books, because listen, he's studying the Russians. Like he's worked with them. Like there's not much more I think I need to say on that standpoint of it.
Right.
But then I've looked like I'm just not strong. I was strong in certain movements, certain events, but I was just not globally strong as hell. And that's a big thing that I've really just started to work on. So I'll work on that strength, and then I do more of my strongman style training for not as much like weight. Like I'm not always maxing out on those lifts because I don't think those are what get me as strong. I think, like I said before, like just a couple minutes ago, it's just I have to get strong as possible, and then I can perfect these movements through reps. And the stronger I get, I'm still seeing much more carryover with that. So I think it's sprinkling those movements throughout the week has helped me a lot from training in that time constraints, but also with the recovery aspect as well.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. The recovery screws up a lot of people, not just in strongman. It's kind of global. People overtrain and then they're out for like 3 days, 4 days, or a week, and they're kind of sputtering along with progress. But yeah, if you can space out your training sessions, or at least do different things on different days, it's a lot more healthy and productive, I find. Nick,
talking about, I want to make a quick point on that, like the overtraining thing, and people always throw around, well, you're just under recovering, and it's like you just have to know where you're at, really. Yep. It comes down to that. Like if you've taken a month off, well, first of all, why the hell did you just take a month off if you're actually serious about your training? And no, you cannot jump into what you were doing before. Like this is just always going to be a progression. Like everything you do is building up on something else. So if you're not taking that into account, then your training is probably screwed to begin with.
It's very true. Now, I want to talk about injuries and stuff because we talked about overtraining. Now, were you ever injured doing strongman stuff or training for it? Or because I know that's pretty common in that world. Most of the professional guys are competing at a high level with a current injury. Like it's
yeah, I'll give you my
feeling perfect.
I'll give you like the two things on that. I stay pretty healthy. I injured my shoulder in college, like playing football. That really doesn't bother me anymore. Like now that I've gotten to train and get everything, like I said, just strong again, the stability is back. I guess I have like low back pressure, but that's only more if I do any direct yoke work is pretty much the only thing that I'll feel that with. Like I can load myself super heavy on farmers, but because it's like the grip is or the weight's through my hands, I feel fine. Like no, I haven't had any major injuries that I can think of. And I think then looking at like, okay, well, guys are always injured, and I'm not sure if that's one of two things, because you see, where do a lot of the injuries come from? They're often tendon related, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're looking at high level strongman, they're probably on some type of steroids, and steroids will get you strong as hell. Like I don't really have a problem with steroids. Like if people want to use them, hey, I mean, that's fine. Like I would never be opposed to something like that. If that's their thing, go for it. But there
are repercussions.
What's that?
There are repercussions, right? Like your
and
muscle.
That's what I was going to say. Like I understand the healing of tissues and the rate of recovery and the rate of strength adaptations. And muscles, they get strong really easily, really fast. Tendons, they're a few months behind. So if you get your muscles super strong and they're pulling on a tendon that's not able to accept whatever that weight is, now you're going to start seeing those injuries. And it doesn't have to be a massive rupture. I mean, just think of all the tendinitises, tendinoses, where there certainly is an imbalance along the way somewhere.
Well, for sure, it's huge. Now, when you were at that gym, what were the common kind of not injuries or even like nagging little issues that other people would come across? Like what would you see kind of as the most common thing? Like is it like, oh man, my shoulder, oh my low back, or was everyone pretty healthy and mindful of that stuff?
No, I mean it's funny, like because I trained with two different types of people, like a couple guys that were all my age, or like within a few years, everybody there, I think, felt pretty good overall. It was more like, all right, some guys would just come in, they were hungover, just tired, like from being up too late, that kind of thing. But then also a group of guys that were maybe, I don't know, maybe like 15 years older than I am, maybe even 20 years, like some of the guys. But it was actually awesome to have them there. Not that any of them were ever really competing in strongman, but they had been still around the game of strength for a long time, like strength athletics. So they've seen a lot of stuff. And for them, yeah, I guess it would be more just like little tweaks. One, he just couldn't move well. Like he was just tight as hell, his shoulders, his hips, his just entire back. And the other one, what's that?
It was just a statue.
Yeah, in essence, like, and you could tell like he wasn't that strong in part because he couldn't move. And the other guys, I mean, some of it was just breakdown, like their knees, their ankles, their hips just have started bothering them. Like no major injuries, more just that chronic repetitive stuff going on.
Yeah, right on. And I think we kind of went on a tangent. I'm not sure if we finished how different your programming looks now than it did back then. I do know you went. Yeah. Sorry, I think I kind of took it off the rails a little bit.
No, that's fine. Like programming now. So, all right, I want to preface this. Like, guys, I've been training, and not just you guys, but I mean everybody listening in general. I've been training for a while. My volume is where it is for a reason. Like that is an important distinction to note. So like I'm going to share this with people because this is something I actually want to release like as kind of like a PDF. Like here's a basic outline of kind of what I do, but more as so that people have an understanding of like where I'm going with things. And I train heavy 4 days a week. I use what I call like a modified West Side template where I have 2 dynamic effort days, 2 max effort days. So I'm doing a whole lot of volume just with that, where I'm having, so like today, for example, we're recording this like on a Tuesday. So that means on Saturday, I did some dynamic effort pressing work. Today, I did some max effort pressing work. On Thursday, what I do is dynamic effort, like squat and deadlift work. And then I'll do some type of squat, deadlift, good morning, max effort work on Sundays. But
sorry, just for people who aren't familiar with the West Side terminology, like max effort and dynamic effort, could you just give a quick breakdown of those two?
Yeah, and I also, this is all my understanding of it. Like there's a whole lot more to it than this, and that's why I'm continuously trying to learn this. Like I would love to get out and train in the gym for a week, a month, a year, whatever it could be. At some point to really see, because like Louis says, you got to be here for at least 10 months to get a basic understanding of what we're doing. So
you have to get them on your show.
Yeah, and I've actually been starting to reach out, like try and get either him or some of the other guys that work there. So that is definitely something I'm looking to do. As far as like overall, what do those things mean? So dynamic effort, what I do is I have approximately 50 to 60% of my 1 rep max on the bar, plus about 25% band tension. So if you look at, all right, using just 100 pounds because it's easy. So if you can do 100 pounds in a lift, well, you have 50 pounds on the bar, between 50 and 60, depending on the week. I run in 3-week waves, and then I put 25 pounds, 25 pounds, so about 25% of band tension at the top of the lift. And that's about it. Like this way, I like the accommodating resistance because if you've ever done this, like, you know, like as you start accelerating through a lift, well, there's a certain point where it almost feels weightless. Like you don't really have to keep going, but the weight's going to continue to go up regardless, right? But if you have these just monster rubber bands over it, well, it's pulling the entire time. So that's something I really like doing. Plus, it's a great conditioning tool. So that's more my volume work, where I'm doing those every between 30 seconds, every minute. Like I'm moving. And you're huffing and puffing, like doing that. After I do those, then, and this goes for either upper body or lower body. Now I'm just going into special exercises. So I'm doing other exercises, other movements to bring up my weakest points. Like what are the other things that I can do to just get me strong? Like I know my upper back, my lower back need to be rocks. Like you just need a strong freaking back to do strongman. And I think really, if you have a strong back in general, you're probably going to be a beast in just about anything you do. And I think that's underrated. Like, people don't know how much rowing, how many pull-ups, and I'm not saying like the kipping stuff, like we're using body weight or just
Right.
no, but that's not like a knock on CrossFit. That's just in general, like, or doing like a half a pull-up where you do like half the range. No, like, bring up like yourself all the way up to the bar and like don't swing yourself up there. If you can't do that, or like if you're doing bent over rows, like maybe and I'll do this when I get really heavy, like if I'm going a couple 100 pounds, then like I'll do first few strict and then I'll start using some body English, but I'm just not trying to like clean it up to my chest the entire time, if you will. So I think just building a strong back in general will get you rock strong in just about anything you do.
Yeah, is that, I would say your weakest point?
No.
Is that the thing that's holding you back? What's
for me, it's my well, okay, so yes and no, I guess, is the answer to that. Like, for me, it's any of my overhead work. So any of my pressing work has always been my weakest point. Like, I've always been a very strong deadlifter, a fair squatter, like not great, but always like any type of press work has been my weakest. But like saying that where, okay, the press work might be my weakest, but why? Is it because I don't have a strong enough like upper back / like shoulder girdle to stabilize that overhead work? Is it because my triceps, like, and for me, it's I'll lose a lot of things at lockout. So that's been a big emphasis that I put on, is doing a lot of just isolated tricep work. And I used to be against this more because I thought everything always had to be that functional movement. And I think it's that time and place for it, where I can still only press as much as I can press, but what's that limiting factor in breaking down the press even further? So I broke that press down even further, and hey, lo and behold, it's XYZ. So that's what I have to bring up then with all of those other exercises that I'm doing then.
Yeah, that's awesome, and like, thanks for saying that. I think, a lot of times when people are training, we don't remember that, we're only as strong as our weakest link, and then we have to actually figure out what that weakest link is, because oftentimes it's something else than what we actually think it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and figuring that out, I'm not going to say like it's a drop in the bucket, like it's a super easy thing to do. No, it's not. Analyze your what you're doing.
Yeah, and just out of curiosity, have you tried doing bands on like overhead pressing movements? Because that would make the lockout even harder, right?
Yeah. Like I just did that this morning. Like, so today I was doing, and I set like PR for myself, so I'm happy about that. Like, I had like just a regular military press. So like you're just standing there, just rigid, just like straight up, nice and tall, and just pressing a bar. And I'm using a close grip, so my hand's like almost touching the smooth part of the bar, and just pressing straight overhead. And I did that with band tension, and the band tension was about 80 pounds at the top. So by the time that I pressed it up overhead, it went from, I think it was probably about 40 or so across my shoulders to 80 pounds overhead. I don't know the math on across my shoulders. I don't remember what it was. I don't really care, because all that I care about is what the weight is that I'm locking out. So yeah, that's huge. And that's one thing that I've been starting to incorporate and seen. I mean, just in a couple of months, I'm seeing probably 30, 40 pound gains on some of these lifts, which is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, especially if you've been doing it for a while. Like, as a beginner, you might see that, but if you've been doing it for a while, generally progress doesn't come that quickly.
Well, and to give like a little preface to that, like I had taken semi like time off from Strongman.
I thought you were about to say semi-steroids, and I'm like,
Semi-steroids. No, that would just be any like the I still see like Chaga and stuff like that. That's steroids in itself right there. But no, like, so for maybe a year and a half to 2 years, actually it'd probably been till I started back up. It was probably about 2 years since I had competed, and that also doesn't mean that I was off during that time. It just means that I probably wasn't going to those. So, okay, so bringing this to the max effort, like I wasn't doing the max effort work, where I was doing more just higher rep lifts. So yeah, I definitely my top end strength went down, but I still have a pretty darn good base from where I'm building. But getting then into the max effort. So we talked about the dynamic effort a little bit. The max effort is just what it sounds like. 1 rep. Like that's what max effort is. If you can do a double with 400 pounds, but you can only go then to 405 pounds for a single, well, that's your max. Like you can't use these charts to be like, oh, I can do 300 pounds for 17 reps. Therefore, I must be able to squat 1,000 pounds. Like, no, it doesn't really work like that. So that's important for people to know. But max effort work is just that. Like I will do singles, like building up. So that's what I did today. I worked up. Like I'll do triples till I can't do triples anymore. Then I'll drop to single reps and just go. And again, same thing. I'm moving pretty good. I'm not really taking much rest period between these, which I think is extremely taxing. Not so much muscularly, but neuromuscular, like the nervous system. It will beat you up.
I was going to bring that up. It sounds like the dynamic effort is more for muscles, and the max effort is for more nervous system training. So.
Well, it depends because now you're getting into different types of strength. Like one's just strength speed, one is speed strength, as far as my understanding of it. And it's basically whichever word is first is kind of the one you're targeting, right? So the dynamic effort, you're still going as fast as possible, but it's still, you're having to move some pretty serious weight. I mean, still you're at between 75 and 85% of your max, which isn't light by any means, but the bands just add a complete different complexity to that. And then the other one, it truly is 100% of what you can do, period. So going off of that then, like, yeah, now it's strength speed. You can't move any weight slowly, right? Like if you're going at your max, like if it's a 500-pound lift and that's the absolute most you can do, well, you couldn't have done it any faster either. So it's as fast as possible that you just moved it.
Yeah, if it's feeling easy, it's probably not your max.
Right. Like if you're just like kind of just like pumping through it or whatever, I mean, no, it's not a max. Like what are you doing? You're huffing and puffing after a single because you put that much effort into it. We talked about like, okay, you don't have to go out and run 6 miles. It doesn't even have to be the 60-second or 90-second event that I said. Like even just a single, people are like, how are you out of breath after that? It's like, did you ever do something like as hard as you possibly can for 5 seconds? You're going to be like, I'm not saying you're going to be sucking wind for an hour, but no, it's going to certainly put its toll on your body.
Yeah, for sure. And you said you've been incorporating more of that now. So how does the recovery look like for that, and how does that all play into your programming?
Okay, no, and going off with that, I still train every single day. Like those are my 4 primary things that I'll do throughout the day. But since we've been talking here, I've already rolled my feet out. I've been doing some squats. I've been doing some heel raises. Like it's not like I'm not doing stuff to pump the body. And I think that's the overlooked part of it because I use my Tai Chi ruler like every single night. That's the last thing I do before I go to bed and have been doing so for years now. And so I'm just getting 20 minutes of very controlled pumping oxygenation through the body as far as that goes. But tomorrow morning, I'll get up before my son wakes up and we have breakfast. Like I'll just go out in the garage and I'll do some gymnastics work and I'll do probably some rowing work. Like I said, like not rowing like on a rower, but rows of some sort for my upper back. I might do some very light pressing work or just shoulder work in general. So again, this isn't meant to tax me, but this is meant to just get all that oxygen back to the blood, back to the muscles to allow them to recover. But then sleep, like I take sleep seriously. First of all, I do sleep. The other part of it is like now that my son is, like 16 months or so, maybe 17 months, getting around there. He's sleeping much better. He's sleeping through the night. So my sleep and my recovery are a whole lot better. Like for Julie and I, like we don't have to get up in the middle of the night, and that's a huge part of it. Like people have to factor these other things in. If you just had a kid, you might be able to do it for a time, but if you're still losing a lot of that, you have to make sure that comes into it. Eating. It was just Thanksgiving here, so what did I do that night? I took the turkey carcass, I threw it in, And I just had like Chef Lance roll on recently, so I made my turkey bone broth. Like that's my favorite one of the year. I just love the flavor of it. But things like that, like those are things that are going to really help my body recover. I'm making sure that I'm just eating enough high quality food. Like it's all part of it.
Well, for sure, it's kind of like gasoline. If you're not putting in premium, you're going to ruin your car. If you're driving a premium car.
Well, you can run, but you're probably not going to get the best performance. So.
Yeah. Especially if you use fuel from Mexico. I hear it's like what is it, like 83 or something down there instead of like 91.
Is it really?
It's something super. It's like crude oil. It's like sludge.
Wow.
But like if you want your body to perform well, and people often underestimate this, they think supplements or whatever will do the job for them. And
Nick, I feel like you want to go on a tangent here, please.
I'd love to.
Are you sure
right.
you're not sponsored by one of these big supplement companies?
I'm trying to think of a name like to just drop it, but I can't. Like that's, I guess, the little that I know about them.
Allmax. I can go all day, but anyway, let's talk about supplements a little bit.
Supplements. All right.
Yeah.
So what did I have today? Oh, all right. I had my Healthy Man tea. Is
that like a brand, or is that just your own thing that you have?
No. Okay. So like I'm gonna drop names now. Like okay.
Yeah.
Actually, what is it? Mountain Rose Herbs. They just make a tea. It's called Healthy Man tea. Like there's just stuff in there that it's healthy. Like it's just a tea is really all it comes down to. But certain things in there are just going to be better for a male, like for prostate health, for just some of them for testosterone production. I mean, just simple stuff like that, but just natural herb stuff that I'm going to put in a tea because I just love drinking some tea. I mean, tea, I rotate through Pu'erh, a few different green teas. What else do I mean, the list goes on. Like I have so many different teas. As far as like other, I'll rotate through adaptogens. So I said chaga before. I have a chaga tincture that actually, it was just ready last week. I just didn't get to strain it and filter that out. So I'll do that probably this weekend. So I'm using ashwaganda right now. So I'll cycle off of that. Like, and yeah, it's like cycling like you're doing steroids. Like it's kind of the same thing, I guess. I don't know. But these are just
exactly the same.
These are just like foods, plants that I think just help my body to recover. And are they supplements? Yeah, I guess so, because I'm still just eating my regular whole foods. What else do I have? Like that, I guess is technically a supplement. Yeah, I mean, did I used to go to GNC? Yeah, I absolutely used to go to GNC and thought that was going to be the magic fix. But
the sales guys there know everything. They're like naturopaths.
If only they could sell like some good probiotics there or something like that. That would be pretty awesome, I think.
Well, if anyone at GNC head office is listening, there you go, guys. Speaking of which, what kind of probiotics do you use? Do you use that?
This is one thing. Like I use, is it Garden for Life? Is that right? Like they do a raw probiotic.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's got some soil-based organisms in there too, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's
Garden of Life.
Garden of Life. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like I don't use just their straight up men's one. I use like the men's plus like kind of a multi, but it's not like they're straight up multi. It's more of a probiotic, and then there are just some other whole food like digestive enzymes and stuff in there. That's actually something. Oh, speaking of digestive enzymes, that's one thing that I think is freaking huge. All right. The amount of stress that people are under, like people do not produce enough hydrochloric acid. People are eating dead foods. And I eat a lot of living foods still, so that helps me. But I still use this stuff. Like I'll use protease, lipase, amylase mix. And I only take that like maybe once in the beginning of the day, once at the end of the day. But then I'll have some like betaine HCl, especially anytime that I have meat to help break any of that down then too for me. Not because I necessarily need it, but because I think it really does also help me. And I think a lot of people could see benefits from that then too.
Oh, for sure. And if you're not digesting your food, you're not getting the nutrients from it. It's like, it's almost you're sabotaging yourself in a way without even knowing it.
Yeah, we're talking about all the recovery aspects. Like, all right, you're putting the food in. If your digestive system is not seeing that food as like food, but an invader, you're going to be in some serious trouble because now it's going to start attacking it. What do you think autoimmune conditions are? I mean, this is your body attacking itself because it doesn't know what it's seeing because it's not even broken down. Like the stomach is supposed to really, really, really break stuff down so the small intestines can begin to absorb it.
Yeah, and nowadays, like with stress and just with not chewing your food even, and parasites, fungus, all this stuff can kind of screw it up.
The parasites and the fungus, like that's happening because of these other things. Like those aren't like, you should normally be able to just like beat the hell out of those things, right? Okay. But when you say the stress, I think, well, and let me say this too. Negative stressors. Like this isn't a positive stressor. These are negative stressors that are beating these things down. You can give yourself a positive stressor, which would be something maybe like apple cider vinegar, which is helping promote the production of the hydrochloric acid. So you can go about these other ways to help with that then too.
For sure. Now, with the sleep aspect, I just kind of want to get back into that. What is kind of your what does your bedtime look like? Are you a big believer in going to sleep super early, waking up super early, or like, do you think that has an impact at all?
I'm a believer in that because it works for me.
Right
so,
on.
Do I think that people can still get by with staying up till midnight and getting up at 8 a.m.? Probably not. Like, not to like really function the way that they want to. Can they get away with that? Sometimes, yeah. But that 10 to 6, like, the research like still shows it. And I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding. Like people that actually get around that time, and maybe it's 10:30 to 6:30, maybe it's 9 to 5, like whatever it is that works for you. Maybe you need 7 hours, maybe you need 9 hours. But as long as you're pretty close with that, you have to find what works for you. Like for me, it's between 9 and 9:30 that I'm in bed, and I'm up between 4:30 and 6. It really all depends on my training. Like I didn't need to sleep in that much today because yesterday was more just like of a pumping movement day. So I wasn't going crazy. I wasn't super stressed out at work yesterday. It was, again, just a steady day. Like I was pretty even keeled. So and I had a great Tai Chi session last night. Like, so all those factors went into it. But today, like I trained heavy as hell. Like it's going to actually be a very, probably I call grueling day. I have a lot of evals on for today. So a lot more mental work is going to go into that. Like I'm going to probably go to bed tonight at 9 and I'll probably sleep till 5:30, 6 o'clock tomorrow. So like I will get that extra sleep, but I just build that into my life knowing that then too.
Yeah. And what I hope people take away from this conversation is it's not just going to the gym and, pounding it out. Of course, that helps get you stronger. But if you don't have the rest of the kind of the angles covered, you're just not going to perform optimally at all, So hopefully people who are into strongman and have been doing it can actually increase quite a bit of their performance just by fixing some lifestyle stuff. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because here's the thing, like we're talking about a lot of the strength aspect of it, and we're staying fairly, at least in my opinion, mainstream. Like I'm not even like, no, because I want this to be understood too. Like I go on like freaking shamanic journeys to learn from my power animals what lifts I should be doing, right? Like I'm asking them these things because hell, they're smarter than I am. Like they're going to know these things. So if you want to go like down other rabbit holes, like that's the way to do it. Like I'm just covering basics here because there's no reason for you to go on a shamanic journey. There's no reason for people to go be doing ayahuasca if they're just not like getting other shit straight in their life. Like you got to do that. Like these simple things, like, yeah, I can work out and get strong as hell only because of all of those other factors that we haven't almost even addressed. Like, because for us, like it's that norm, like that's the normal. Like, all right, now now that I have that 95% done, what's that last 5 or 10% that's going to make me set the PRs that I want to set, like get to that strength level that I want to get to? Why? Not because like all right, this is like, okay, if I win nationals, like I'll be pro strongman, like this and that. Why? No, because I freaking love doing it. Like, it's fun for me. And if it wasn't, well, I'm not going to do it because what's the point?
Right.
Exactly. People kind of get sucked into it, and then, like, just like anything in life, and they kind of forget why they're there. And if you don't know why you're there, usually time to get out. Yeah. But I know, Brian, did you have any more questions? I know we have some time limitations today.
Yeah, just a few minutes left. I just jump right into our wrap-up questions, Nick. So the first one I'd like to ask you is, if you could have a billboard anywhere, where would it be, and what would you have on it?
All right, it's funny because we've actually we've talked about this before a little bit, and I think the first time you guys said this to me is one of those, like, and I've thought about it since, like, because I knew this was probably coming, and I actually still don't have an answer because I think it's talking about, like, getting to all those other crazy things. Like, my answer is going to be different now than it will be at the end of the day, than it will be tomorrow morning. So I guess the picture, like the thing that I'm putting on that billboard is going to be that every day is a beautiful day. And more, let me give you a quick context on that. Like,
okay,
I take my son and my dogs for a walk every single day of the year. When I say every single day, like, it is absolutely pouring today. And we were singing on our walk today. Like, we're singing, like, Dr. Happy song. Like, I have some other songs, like, that I'll sing with Cooper. And the dog's like, we're just running. I'm like, Cooper, it is a freaking beautiful day. Like, it's pouring down, it's hitting us. Like, he doesn't care. He's laughing, he's giggling. So I think that's what I would put, because I don't like being conditioned, like, oh, the only nice days are sunny and 75. You know what? Like, every day that I get to just go out and enjoy it, it's a beautiful day. So, hey, maybe just, it's a beautiful day. That's what I'd put on there.
You know what? It's true, because the day that you have is better than the day that you don't, and it's very important to appreciate that. You know.
Quotable.
So.
That's what I would put on a billboard.
Claude,
I'm stealing your quote.
You can put your name on that. I've got many where that came from.
I'm sure you do.
The old thought factory up above my chin here. So next question, Brian. Do you want to do the Optimum Human one? Because you do it way better than I do.
Fair enough. So Nick, when you hear the Optimum Human, what is the first person or the first set of principles that comes to mind?
I think the Optimum Human, like, the first person, is just yourself.
Thank you.
And
that's not the first time I've heard that.
But really, you should think of yourself as being the Optimum Human, because if you're not, like, it doesn't matter. Like, sure, you can look at people and principles that they apply, like you said, certain principles, and I think those principles, for me, like, it's just to be happy, to be loving life, because whatever you're doing, that aspect of it is going to still control all others. So if you're happy with, we talked about the foods that you're eating, if you're happy with the way that you're training, with the words that come out of your mouth, with the sleep that you're getting, with the job that you're in, I mean, so on and so forth, if those things are in line, you're going to be good.
Beautiful.
Now, I believe we're really on the kind of the cusp of the time. So, Nick, where can people find out more about you? You know, if they want to get in touch, or if they, you know, if you might have a podcast or something. Where
you might. You might.
Yeah. So speaking of podcasts, Barenaked Health Podcast, which I've had the pleasure of interviewing both of you guys on. So thank you for that. But that's where I'm putting out a lot of different interviews. And again, that's just more, hey, people that want to be healthy, that want to be happy. Like I said, like, what is your Optimum Human? I mean, those are the people that I want on too. So that certainly is what all that's about. And then I have Evolution Health and Fitness, which said I'm diving a lot more into the strongman aspect with. So I do coaching on there, both more the holistic lifestyle, so people that are just looking to get healthy, but I'm starting to take on people in the strength game, some with their programming, but I'm actually doing it more from the, like I said, just that getting healthy overall, because really get your body healthy and you're going to give it that recovery, that everything that it needs to just get you to those strength goals. So that's where I'm putting up videos on there. I'm always working on little things that I just love to put out and share for people.
Beautiful.
Awesome. And we'll put these in the show notes for everyone. But Nick, is there anything you'd like to say to our audience or us before we get off the call?
Just thank you guys. I had a blast talking here, and I think, hey, it's a beautiful day. That's what I want to leave everybody with.
It is a beautiful day. I agree.
It is.
Well, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the call today, and hope everyone has a fantastic, beautiful day.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks again.
All right, okay. Catch you later.
Thanks for listening to the Optimum Human Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to head on over to iTunes and give a 5-star rating and review, which will help spread the word to more awesome listeners just like you. Head on over to theoptimumhuman.com and subscribe to the free newsletter and get the Optimum Humans Blueprint to the Optimum Life. Download it instantly. Thanks for listening.